Hi guys, welcome to BRAMstrology, where you are now taking steps to becoming your rare, authentically mastered self using the language of the stars. My name's Brandon, and today we're going to be doing just pretty much just a video. So if you're new to my channel, hi, welcome, my name's Brandon, and I already said that, but let's just say it again, because why not? I mainly do astrology videos here. I have been working on making more content for you all and everything, and I realized in the process of that I hadn't had like a really updated video on the chart readings that I offer. So in this video here today, I'm just going to be going over the different chart readings that I offer. All the timestamps for them are going to be down below. I will probably be updating this probably yearly, quarterly, I'm not exactly sure, just because there's a lot of readings that I want to offer you guys, and I have a lot on my website already, and then there's other ones that I haven't listed. With that being said too, all of the readings that I offer, the prices are going to vary as, you know, sales and prices go up, prices go down, you know, economic things, you know. So I'm not going to put the prices in this video here, because they will be linked in either the links down below, so you can feel free to check it out on my website or on any of the links I put down there. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Without further ado, let's just get into talking about the readings I offer. So let's just start with the big kahuna, the biggest one that I got, most popular, most standard reading, which is the regular birth chart reading. So within it, there is quite a lot that I cover in that. It's typically over like an hour, hour and a half, depending on the time and kind of what I go into, because I do really like to do comprehensive readings. So in that, I do have an introduction to astrology that I link as a private video where we can kind of talk about that. If you are at a different level of astrology, it's a great start for that reason. Then I do also obviously have the detailed natal chart reading. So much like this video here, where there's timestamps down below, and all the videos I do on my channel where I have timestamps for each individual placement, I do the exact same thing for your own personalized birth chart. And I pretty much try and hit as much as I can as it relates to your birth chart and just whatever specific questions you have. And then obviously the video is private, pre-recorded, just like this. So it is something that you will have either emailed to you, DM to you, whatever you would need to get it in your virtual possession, I guess. And with that, it is pretty much yours to keep forever, and you can re-reference it whenever you want. So that's why I really like doing the pre-recorded videos, at least initially for the first birth chart reading, because it gives you a really good sort of staple or springboard to kind of go further into any other reading going forward. I do have oracle card readings that I do that are additional add-ons if you wanted to do them, and then also Astrodice oracle readings as well, or Astrodice, yeah, oracle readings, yeah. So they're both intuitive. They're more on the intuitive side. So if you're just wanting just astrology, you have the option to just select those off. As of right now, this is my most popular reading. Obviously, this is the one that everyone really goes to, because everyone really wants to know exactly the depth of their chart. And I really try my absolute hardest to go as in-depth as possible for you guys, because I truly, truly love you, and I truly want to see each and every one of you own your power, own your, you know, the divine nature of your chart. And I'd love to just let you guys know more about this and teach you from what I learned, and then also just kind of give those tools to you so that you guys can learn that as well. So that is pretty much it with that. And then also too, totally forgot about this, but with the initial birth chart reading, there's two more things. One, I do in the initial birth chart reading, I do a personalized energy signature. So what that is I will go into your chart after, you know, this entirety of however long, you know, the reading is, and I will give you a specific placement to sum up your entirety of your chart. So it's kind of like some form of homework where if I can kind of just condense all of your chart into one singular placement, that is what it would be. So that is only available during my initial consults, because it is something that you can go and look up yourself and see what resonates. I do that because I really want to see if you guys are really interested in learning more, to just kind of go and explore based off of kind of what I'm giving you, as well as any other astrologer on here. You know what I mean? I'm not the only one in this space, as we know, you know. So with that, it is one of my favorite things to do. I love the energy signatures. I think it's so much fun. It's more of an intuitive thing. So it just comes with the thing. It just comes with it, so it's included. The other thing too, this is probably one of the most important parts of this birth chart reading. As of right now, what I do, unless you are like already a professional astrologer and all those things, and have, you know, don't really need an initial birth chart reading, after you get this birth chart reading here, you are then open to pretty much get any of my other readings that I offer, and we'll go through those as we kind of progress throughout the course of this video. So yeah, so that's really the reasoning for that. Granted, on a case-to-case basis, I will kind of assess depending on, you know, obviously your level of astrology, and if I really, you know, if I've already seen your chart, we've already kind of talked about it casually, or if, you know, whatever it may be. Like I said, it's a case-to-case basis on people that can kind of, I guess, skip this initial phase. But for the most part, especially if you're more of a beginner, more of a beginner level of astrology, I would recommend just starting with this one, because this is the most comprehensive, most in-depth reading you can get. So that is the initial birth chart reading there. That's the main one that, like I said, most of you will more than likely get. The link for that is down below, as well as all the other links too. Another thing too, because of currently, at the time I'm recording this, I'm using Calendly, which is a calendar booking app for my website. That's linked with it. As of right now, I get a lot of questions about booking the reading and having it be scheduled, right? Because it's a pre-recorded video. So this initial bit of birth chart reading is predominantly only a pre-recorded video. I don't really like doing these as consultations, because I feel like it doesn't give you as much value, because with how much information we have and how much we take in throughout the course of our day or a week, this is very much something that you need to find a way to kind of like solidify, as opposed to just having a one-time conversation and hopefully remembering it weeks, months from now, which is why I make those pre-recorded videos specifically for this one. So with this, it does ask you to pick a time and date, and for the most part, as of right now, I'm not super booked, but I do have a leeway window of about 7 to 10 days from the day that you book. So as of right now, that's what I have. Like I said, this can all change moving forward, because it's just a video that I'm doing to just kind of update you guys. So that's that with the birth chart reading, like I said. Now let's move on to talking about the solar return chart. Okay, so the solar return chart is my second most popular reading. This is predominantly it's not really entirely more advanced, I would say, but it is something that if you don't know about it, I would definitely recommend you get a regular birth chart reading previously. The reason it's really important to get a birth chart reading prior to this one specifically is because I will be doing a lot of comparisons to your natal chart and the solar return chart. So the solar return chart is pretty much like a birthday chart. It has to do with when the sun returns to where it was when you were born. So typically that's within one day or so of your birthday, and there's a lot of different things that can be examined in that, and it shows the themes between, you know, your birthday to birthday, essentially. There's a lot of things to be said about solar returns. Many astrologers do them. This video or this reading is also a reading that I may recommend doing as a pre-recorded reading. It doesn't have to be, just because this is only a time-based thing, so it's only lasts for about a year. With that being said too, I would definitely recommend, if it's been more than about 6 months or so after your birthday or before your birthday, I wouldn't really recommend getting a solar return reading, because it really only has about 6 months of leeway time. I would recommend getting it right around your birthday, or maybe max like 1 month before, 1 month after. I would definitely recommend 1 month before, as you transition into that solar return. 1 month after, 2 months after, I wouldn't really recommend it. But the good thing is with this one, this is obviously a very great birthday gift for any of your friends, family, anyone that is an astrology nerd like me loves to get solar return readings. And in the community, people that are astrologers will always bring their solar return charts to other astrologers to kind of compare and contrast what they pick up and what they see. So that's mainly with the solar return reading. It typically is, like I said, a private video. If you do want to do a consultation, we can do that. But typically what I try and do with that is I still try and record the reading for you, or at least give you some sort of virtual sort of hard copy of what was said, whether it's an audio recording, video recording, or whatever it may be. So if we do have a consultation, just know that we can talk about it being recorded and set those things up prior. So there is a little bit more time to set that up, but just know that that is an option as well with this reading, as well as pretty much every of my other readings moving forward, just really not the initial birth chart. So then we do talk about the solar return overlays to the natal chart. So this is a little bit more lengthy, but it's also, once again, why it's important to have a birth chart reading first, or at least have a very comprehensive understanding of your birth chart, at least have me and myself, and also, of course, you have a comprehensive understanding of that before we can kind of analyze solar return charts, things like that. With that too, I'm going to mention it in the solar return chart reading, or I might do a different portion too, but I am going to be doing return chart readings, so it doesn't have to just be a solar return chart. It can be a Mercury return chart, Venus return chart, Mars return chart, Jupiter, Saturn, all those things. I do all the different return charts. Return charts are actually one of my favorite things to do in astrology, because I think they're so cool and they're so fun, and especially the return charts that are not just solar returns, because I think a lot of astrologers and a lot of people in the community focus on solar return charts but don't really look towards anything else. So just so you know, I do have that as an option. We'll talk about that kind of in my last portion of here, which is like all my additional ones, so we'll talk about that more, but I did want to bring it up in this reading only because this is a return chart reading, so it is relevant to kind of mention that there's other returns that do happen that are relevant and are important, especially depending on your rising sign, depending on what your chart ruler is. So with that too, as of right now, the solar return reading does include a discounted sort of code or a discounted reading for the predictive reading. So kind of all of them sort of work up to discounting the next one, because a lot of people can just kind of jump from the birth chart reading. They could potentially jump to the predictive or you know, any of those sort of like private consults, and I want to make sure that we kind of go in sequential order for you, just to make sure you understand kind of what is going on. So I think that's what I do right now. Currently, there is a code for that. So anyone that books the solar return reading does get a sort of discount that we'll keep in the system, and we'll understand and make sure that we adhere to that moving forward. Once again, it's a case-by-case basis right now, at least, just because I don't know how long this updated chart reading is going to last, but just know that the solar return reading is honestly one of my favorites, and I have had so much joy doing them, and I just love return chart readings in general. So we'll talk about those, like I said, later, but like I said, this is the solar return reading. So now we're going to go and talk about the money and the love reading. So I will see you in the next part. Okay, so this is going to be the money reading. So the money reading is more of a smaller sort of, I don't want to say smaller, but it is still in depth. It's not going to be as focused as it would be for, you know, a full birth chart reading. So in this money reading, I'm going to go over, you know, the Venus and Mars placements, and that any transits that may be applicable, the second house, fifth house, sixth house, eighth house, 10th house, 11th house analysis. So we'll just kind of talk about all those things. We're going to talk about the lords of the houses and kind of where they're placed and how they're aspected. There's a lot of things that we're going to go into with the money reading. I do want to have a obviously disclaimer here. I'm not a financial advisor, so you know, consult your financial advisor for these things. I am an astrologer. I'm going through that. There's also financial astrology. That's a whole nother avenue of things. I am not at a point currently that I feel comfortable doing that, mainly because, once again, I'm not a financial advisor. Talk to your brokerage, you know, do your thing. But overall, it is really just kind of taking your birth chart and orienting it towards money and towards finances and towards self-worth, self-value, those things. And we'll talk about all those things in the course of the video. It can be a video pre-recorded, or this one is pretty commonly, as well as the love reading, these are pretty commonly going to be consultations where video, you know, like we have a conversation and we kind of record it, just because this is something that is a little bit easier to remember, right? Because it's not something like, oh, you know, you have this transit that's going to happen in 6 months. Like, are you going to remember that in 6 months? Probably not. But you remember, you know, your Venus is aspected like this, your Mars is aspected like this. So that's kind of the things that the money reading's about. It does really honestly just really help you understand the predisposition you have astrologically towards money and self-value and finances. So it is something that is really, really valuable in this day and age, especially with how we're moving into this very digital sort of world. And understanding your self-value and money and finances is extremely important, especially with the nodes as of 2022 moving into Taurus. So it's going to be very, very applicable as of 2022. So I'm very excited for anyone that books this, because I think there's a lot of value in this as well. So that is the money reading there, like pretty brief explanation. And then we're going to move into talking about the love reading. So let's see over there. All right, so we have the love reading, which much like the money reading is pretty similar in the sense of it's me going through and looking at your birth chart and orienting it towards love, relationships, those sorts of things. So it is something that is very prevalent in, people that need to kind of know what relationships they're looking for and who they're kind of attracted to in those sorts of ways. And there's a lot to be said on this, especially with currently, this is a Venus retrograde. I'm recording this in, so it's a very interesting energy for me to talk about at the moment. And much like the money reading, this is a more commonly a video conference where you and I will speak and we'll kind of have a conversation more so about your love, your relationship with love. I have done it as pre-recorded videos, and I do also enjoy doing that. It's entirely up to you, whatever you prefer. I personally think it's better to have a physical reading that you can re-reference as you kind of need to kind of re-explore that relationship with love, because it's always going to be applicable for the most part. But it is something that if you want to do as a conference, we can set that up, as well as, like I said, doing any sort of recorded conference calls, so things like that. So feel free to kind of let me know about that as well, because that is something that I tend to kind of work through as we book the reading. So within the love reading, I do want to let you know this is not a relationship reading. So the difference between a love reading and a relationship reading, a love reading is just specifically about your chart as it relates to love. So it has to do with what your natal chart is saying about relationships, what your natal chart is saying about self-love, self-care, 7th house, 8th house things, marriage, casual sex, things like that. So it is something that is specifically oriented towards you. It is not something that has another person really involved in kind of overlaying and comparing the charts. We'll talk about that one next. But for the most part, this is going to be pretty similar to the money reading, but like I said, just oriented towards relationships and love. So we're going to be talking about Venus and Mars as it relates to love, 7th house analysis, 8th house analysis, different things like that, and kind of see what is going on as it relates to you having a relationship, or you loving yourself, or you bringing things into your life, right? Or going after it, right? Also, there are transits that may be applicable depending on kind of how I'm going about it and how either the conversation goes or I feel while I'm recording the video. So I may talk about perfection years if they're applicable, or any upcoming transits as well. So just know that that is semi in there. This is also not a predictive reading, but it is something that we do kind of bring up if it just kind of comes up and needs to kind of be referenced. Because my readings are pretty intuitive as well, so I just kind of bring up as I see fit and as I feel kind of drawn to, but I won't typically do quite a lot of predictive work, especially if the video is recorded. Whereas if it's like more of like a face-to-face interaction, I'll probably do more of the sort of transits and say, oh, you have this transit coming up and this transit coming up, so there may be something going on, but it is something I don't typically really entirely bring up. With that too, there is a much like the solar return reading, with the love reading, it does give you a discounted access to the relationship reading. So the relationship reading is different. I'll go talk about that next, but it is something that it gives you a discount to that. So if you go in the order of like birth chart, love reading, relationship reading, it gives you a nice little middle ground. The love reading is a nice transition between the birth chart and a relationship reading, because I want to make sure that you truly understand what your natal chart is saying as it relates to love, and also as it just relates to overall with the birth chart as well. So before we kind of go into the relationship portion of things and kind of like comparing and contrasting and kind of working with other charts and getting to more like advanced intermediate sort of approaches. So that is a love reading there. Let's move on to the next level of this, which is the relationship reading. So I'll see you there. Okay, so the relationship reading. This is one of my favorite readings to do. The relationships and predictives are always super fun. The relationship reading, this is where it is very, very important to at least have developed or built some sort of client astrologer relationship at this point, just because I understand, especially with the current transits going on with Venus retrograde and Capricorn craziness, I understand how sensitive relationships may be. And with this, I probably should preface all these videos like this, or all the readings I offer like this, but the point I always try and bring into my readings and always try and talk to my clients about is at the end of the day, I am simply using my knowledge and helping you and kind of just talking things out with you. It doesn't mean that I know everything about this person or about the relationship or about your life, right? You have lived your life. You have experienced your life. You're the one that has the answers within you. I am clearly just being someone that is translating what I'm seeing in the charts and kind of just talking it out with you. I don't want you to ever, ever, ever use my words as doctrine or as ultimate truth, because I absolutely despise that. And I think you need to have some attunement to your own feelings and your own discernment as it relates to what I'm saying. Because not everything's going to resonate, and I don't want you to take everything I say, once again, like I said, as doctrine or as ultimate truth. So, preface that, right? But as it relates to the relationship reading, this is, a love reading is highly recommended prior to this, like I said in the previous portion. And then with this, there is a little bit more complexity to it, just because there is multiple charts that are being involved. So there is a consent that is required for both parties. So you, obviously the one purchasing this, and the person that is the relationship, the other partner. So there is consent that needs to be given on both sides, and you need to know that or I need to know rather, that the partner has given consent to have their chart read, and that you want to kind of know that, because it is something that is unethical to do otherwise. So just be aware of that. Now also, as this kind of relates to the pre-recorded videos and things, this can be a conference. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this as a conference, only because it's so long. This video is 2 hours long, because I go in and I speak about quite a lot of different things in different increments. And so with the relationship reading, it's split up into 4 sections. The first section is a 30-minute compatibility sort of reading, so as it relates to synastry. So we will kind of look at, your Venus, their Venus, your Mars, their Mars, pretty much just kind of like really like kind of micro love readings for both of them, and kind of comparing and seeing how they work together, at least as it relates to like Venus and Mars, rising sign, things of that nature, and just kind of basic compatibility. Then the second 30-minute portion is going to be just completely this partner's natal chart. So not your natal chart, because pretty much at this point we should have had a initial birth chart reading. So there would have been a second person's birth chart that I would be going into for about 30 minutes and kind of just analyzing it. And then the third portion is going to be the synastry chart, which is essentially the overlays of the 2 charts, and kind of seeing, okay, your sun is in your partner's, 7th house, right? Or, your Venus or their Venus is in your 12th house, right? There's a lot of different ways that can be spoken about, and that's a whole other chart as well. So with this reading, the reason it is 2 hours is because there's multiple charts that are pulled and multiple things that are talked about throughout the course of this video or the course of this conference. Now, the fourth part, which is actually my favorite part to do because I love these readings, is the composite chart. So the composite chart is essentially when you take the 2 charts of 2 people. It can be not just people, but for the example of this, it's going to be 2 people, and then we create a birth chart using midpoints between those 2 charts, and it creates a whole new chart of what the composite is and what the kind of like relationship chart is, if you will. So with that, that is one of my favorite things to do, because that's where you really get a lot of the answers and a lot of the things kind of really come through and kind of really make a lot of sense, because it's kind of the last missing piece as we progress through the reading. So that's why I really love doing the composite chart, especially doing it last in the reading, because it really does solidify a lot of the things and kind of really allow you to really see what it is that the relationship's goals are, and what, you know, how it's affecting both of you and what it may be. So that is the relationship reading. This is one of my favorite ones to do. I love relationship astrology. I think it is so fun. And I think it's mainly the Libra midheaven for me, like that I just love relationships. And I love living vicariously through those. I think it's great. So I do love doing these, and just know that, once again, like I said, do not take what I say as doctrine. Use your own discernment and kind of tune into your own system and your own energy to really see exactly what the truth is for you, and just go from there. That's the same with all these readings. Also, wanted to mention too, that in all of the readings that I offer, I do offer an optional oracle card and astro dice portion. So those are optional throughout all of my readings that I offer. So just be aware of that too. If you are a person that enjoys oracle and divination tools, you can use those or add those to the readings as well. They aren't really any extra cost at this time that I'm recording. So just know that. So yeah, so that's the relationship reading there. We're gonna move into the predictive reading, and then yeah, I'll see you in the next part. Alrighty. So the predictive reading is, once again, lots of my favorite. I love doing the predictive reading. I think this is one of my strong suits, and also one of the ones I really enjoy doing, because I naturally do this just as I read charts anyways. I naturally do predictive work just because that's just how long I've been doing this. I just naturally look to see what's going on in the sky and kind of just relay that to you. So with the predictive reading, like I said in the solar return portion, if you purchased a solar return reading for me, you do get this at a discounted price as of right now. That's kind of what I have set up. Granted, like I said, all of these prices can kind of change and vary as I progress through this, as this is like my business and all these things. But with it being a predictive reading, there is an option to do this as a in-person consultation or virtual consultation as well. So that is an option that is available within that. This is something that I always like to give my clients, my students, tools and physical things that they can use moving forward, which is why typically I like to do pre-recorded videos for you all, or have some sort of way, if we do a consultation, for it to be recorded for you to re-reference and kind of have those dates kind of spoken about at a different point in time. So with this, like I said, there is obviously the YouTube video, whether you want to choose that or not. Typically, I would recommend it just because that is probably the best way to do it, but we can do it on a case-by-case basis and kind of just see how we're vibing and see what you want to do. Now, with the predictive reading as well, it typically goes for a 3-month period. So I go between around when you order it to 3 months from then. So I will go over all the lunations. I will go over all of the specific transits that are really hitting you specifically as it relates to your natal chart, whether it's squares, oppositions, the lunations, things like that. And we'll kind of talk about them. Now, I'll talk about any sort of retrogrades that occur within the 3-month period and how that may manifest for you. And then I will be sending out, for you specifically, more of a predictive reading, kind of the beginning or end of every single month, to kind of talk about those lunations. Because for me to look out months and months and months in advance at the lunations is a little bit much. So with this, there is a lot more sort of time frame that is required of me, as well as more scheduling that's required. Now, this one is something that is a little bit more advanced and a lot more engagement. So I don't typically have a lot of clients that work with this one, only because of the time commitment, but I am looking forward to adding some clients and students to this come 2022. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And the thing that I wanted to say too, this predictive reading does not incorporate any return readings in it, unless there is a specific, return that happens that is really notable. Then I'll kind of let you know, hey, you got a Mars return, hey, you got a Saturn return, hey, you got, this like Mercury return, whatever it may be, right? So those will kind of be brought up in the predictive reading, but they won't be specifically read as a specific chart. So just know that as well. But like I said, with this video is mainly just for you all to just see what I have to offer at this current time and just kind of make a more detailed explanation of it, because I really want to do that for you guys, because I watched my video on my channel for the updated chart readings and I was like, this is trash. Like, this is so outdated. I need to like really update this. So that's why I did that. Once again, similar to the money reading, I am not a relationship coach. So don't take what I'm saying as gospel, as truth. And understand your own relationships. And once again, too, with this, there's so much more I want to mention in this. There's so much more to relationships. Oh, I'm not predictive. I'm predictable right now. This is so funny. Wow! That's great. Point is, I mean, it applies to this too, but it's something that in any sort of reading that you do in the astrology space, a lot of people in this space work with other types of sort of I don't know what we call them, but like Aquarian tools, I guess is the best way I could put it. So like human design, attachment style, you know, your INFJ, ENFP, your like the Myers-Briggs, you know, the Enneagram, all those different things you can use to categorize yourself. There's different things within that. I don't really do any other readings outside of astrology, because I really love astrology and it's my passion. But just know, as it relates to all of the readings across the board and just in general, just as a person, there's more things besides astrology that you can utilize to kind of understand and approach your own sort of profile of yourself from different angles. So just understand that and know that, and it is applicable to both this and any of the other readings that I offer, as well as just like life advice, like, to be completely honest. But know that I specifically at this point just do astrology readings. That is what I focus in on, and that's what I love to do. I do have some really good people that do, you know, cardology, people that do human design, people that do a bunch of different things that I can reference you to or point you towards if you are interested in doing those as well. So just know that too, that's out there. Yeah, so that's the predictive astrology reading. We're gonna move on to like the bigger kind of portion, which is all like the miscellaneous readings that I offer or that I will be offering in the future. So this is the really exciting part. So I'll see you in the next part. Okay, so this is the one that's going to be kind of a mess of readings, but it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So this is going to be all of the kind of miscellaneous readings and things that I am offering privately and or planning on offering in the future. So some of these are listed on my website currently and some are not. So just know that they are options. These are more by request at this time. I don't really have them specifically linked on my website because they're more niched down. They're not as standard as most astrologers would do it. Now, the charts that I have currently listed on our website are, well, I already mentioned them in the return reading, but we have the Mercury, Venus, and Mars return charts that are all worth noting about. The Jupiter and Saturn square opposition chart, and the Jupiter and Saturn return chart. So mainly return charts. This is a thing that I really use for people that are interested in, it's another form of predictive work. So all of the return charts, and I'm going to do like a whole long video on return charts because there's a lot to talk about, and I made a whole video and it didn't have audio and I'm really mad about it, but whatever. And so there's obviously the Mercury return, Venus return, Mars return, and then Jupiter and Saturn, they don't return as often as those outer or those inner planets do. So with those, that's why I offer the Jupiter Saturn square opposition chart, because those are also applicable and worth noting about. And then obviously Jupiter and Saturn return charts, which are really big deals. Those are like really, really prominent times in your life of really, really interesting shifts, especially the Saturn return, speaking from experience. Now, the other portion that's kind of linked into all of these return charts is the chart ruler return chart. So this might be a little bit confusing for more of the beginners in the astrology space, but the chart ruler return chart is essentially if you have, let's say you're a Gemini rising, right? So you're a Gemini rising, that means your chart ruler is Mercury. So when you have your Mercury return, that is your chart ruler return, right? That's your chart ruler's return. So those returns that are your chart ruler are even more pivotal and even more important than any other sort of return. Now, each return chart has its own value and its own space, that it has its importance, but the chart ruler return chart I've seen has a lot more importance than the other ones. So just know that. So I'm going to go through the rising signs really quick just so you know which return charts we would be talking about. Now, yeah, so as of an Aries rising, that's obviously going to be Mars, so that would be a Mars return chart, would be the chart ruler return chart for them. Taurus would be a Venus. Venus return would be the Venus chart ruler return chart there. Gemini, I already said. Cancer risings, I have to figure out what to do exactly for you, because this is more of the Cancer risings, I think, are going to be more of a coaching sort of environment, just because the lunar return happens every single month. So there is something that needs to be kind of niche down for them. So I'm still working on developing some sort of way that I can approach Cancer risings. So don't worry, I got you, Cancer risings. I understand. I get it. I got you. So I will work on that. If you're a Cancer rising, doesn't mean that you don't have other planetary bodies that are affecting things as a chart ruler of the moon. But for the most part, with Cancer risings, I typically want them to study more of the lunations or like the major lunations within their chart. So that's typically what I do for them, or what I would do for them as of right now is, so example, if you were a Cancer rising and your moon was, let's say, in, Aquarius, or was in, Leo, when there was a full moon in Aquarius or Leo, I probably shouldn't use the axis, but point is, when there's a full moon or a new moon in your, as it relates to your own moon sign, that is when I would kind of do those sort of returns, is the lunations that are specific to your sign that you have as your moon. So that's Cancer risings. I hope that kind of helps a little bit, what I would do for them. But there's a lot. Cancer risings, I really want to work with you guys. I love you guys, so just know. Now, Leo risings, this is kind of similar to the Cancer risings, because the Leo risings, obviously they're ruled by the sun, so solar returns are even more important for Leo risings. So yes, that's still important. Now, with that though, just like I did with the Cancer risings, with the Leo risings, I would recommend doing the new moon or the full moon that is opposite their own, just to kind of get more of a better idea on that. Once again, with Leo risings, I haven't really quite figured out what would be best for you all as it relates to the chart ruler return charts. So just be aware of that. But as of right now, the best option I can think of at the moment is similar to what I just said about the Cancer risings, which would be the lunations that are specific to like your birth month. So like if you are a Virgo sun, it would be the full moon in Pisces, or it would be the new moon in Leo, but more so, or not Leo, Virgo, it would be more so the full moon that happens during your, while the sun is in your sign. So that's what I would recommend for them. But there is other options that I'm willing to work with and kind of just talk to you, and we can work those things out. Now, where was I? Virgo. So Virgo is obviously Mercury, so that's a Mercury return chart. Libra is a Venus return chart. Scorpio is a Mars return chart, because there is no way at this point in time that we are going to live to, 280 years for a Pluto return. So as right now, it's a Mars return, okay? For all you, modern astrologers that are like, no, like I hear in the comments, like, it's Pluto. It's Mars for this example. So Mars return is very important for Scorpio risings. Sagittarius risings, this is where it gets a little interesting. So as we move on from Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, this is where the readings for the chart return, or the chart ruler return charts, are a little bit different. So because Jupiter and Saturn don't return as often, Jupiter returns about every 12 years or so, and Saturn returns about 28 and a half or 30-ish years. Now, because of this, the Jupiter-ruled risings, so Sagittarius and Pisces, you are both going to have to, or for a chart ruler return chart, you are going to have to look at the transits of Jupiter, which this is going to be very, very prevalent when you have a Jupiter square or a Jupiter opposition. So if you are a Sagittarius rising, and you have your Jupiter in Gemini, for example. Obviously, when Jupiter is in Gemini, that's your Jupiter return. That's obvious, right? But that only happens every 12 years. Now, when you have Jupiter squaring it, so like, Jupiter in Pisces or Jupiter in Virgo, those are squares to your Jupiter. Those are the charts that I'm going to use for the Jupiter square sort of ideas. Because essentially what it is with the squares for both Jupiter and Saturn is the Jupiter square, like let's say it's the Jupiter square prior to the return. It's working up to the Jupiter return. So it's a prevalent chart, it's an important chart for the lessons and kind of clues as to what is going to happen in your Jupiter return. And then as it relates to the other end of things, when it is the Jupiter square opposite the Jupiter square after your Jupiter return. So in the example I said previously with the Jupiter and Gemini individual, this would be when Jupiter is in Virgo. So it's a square after the conjunction. This is going to give you clues as to what's going to happen during your Jupiter opposition, which is when, in this example, Jupiter being in Sagittarius. So that is the Jupiter chart ruler opposition squares charts, right? So I don't want to forget about you guys with the Jupiter Saturn ruled people, because it's really frustrating to really only have, at least as like a Saturn return, you really only have like your birth chart and then like your Saturn return chart as a Saturn ruled person. So it's really difficult to kind of figure out exactly what's leading up to that and get more clues as it relates to Saturn, as it relates to your chart ruler in that example. And then same with Jupiter. Jupiter moves obviously not just as slow, but it moves slow. So it is important to kind of pivot and kind of adapt for the Jupiter rising people, which are, Sagittarius and Pisces. And then with Saturn rule people, so Capricorn, Aquarius risings, same thing applies, just like I said about the Jupiter ruled chart ruler return charts. So it's going to be, Saturn squares, Saturn opposition charts, those sorts of things that are going to be what we're going to be reading. So those are all the return charts that I offer that I'm doing. I also am doing relocation charts, which are really, really fun. So if you are looking to move anywhere, we can do relocation charts as it relates to astrocartography, as it relates to specific places that you are interested in moving to or living in. So astrocartography is an option I do as well. I haven't done quite as many of those at this point in time, but I do want to do more of them because I think astrocartography is so much fun. The other things I'm doing as well is similar to a solar return chart, because it is kind of included with the solar return charts if I kind of feel the need to, is the perfection year. So I can go specifically into the perfection year and use that as a predictive reading as well. So that is another option for you. And then one that I have not added to my website yet is the electional astrology readings, or the horary readings as well, which are electional charts. Excuse me. Electional charts are specifically like when you want to elect something or start something. So electional astrology is its own branch of astrology that I think is really, really fun and really cool. And I have so much interest in it, and I really have been diving into it more and wanting to learn more about it. And I really have wanted to do more readings for you all. I'm going to probably be taking some courses as it relates to electional astrology, because I think it's really valuable astrological skill to kind of pick up. But that is something I am doing as well soon. And then, yeah, that's honestly, so that is all of the readings that I offer, at least as the miscellaneous sort of options. I do also, within this, I want to let you know that there is the, sort of any other thing under the umbrella of astrology that you'd want to talk about. So there can be literally anything, and this can be, one-on-one sort of coaching, in a sense, astrological coaching, one-on-one sort of specific, like I really want to learn about my, perfection years, or like it's more of like a lesson, right? There's those options as well. And then let's see what other ones I have here. So I have astrology. Okay, yeah, so I have, let's see. yeah, so pretty much just the classes, honestly. Those are the other options, but pretty much anything that you are interested in that you haven't quite gotten a grasp on, right? So it's really important for us to kind of work with that. Now, there's a lot more within this and within the astrology space that is worth talking about. With this as well, I want to add that I will be doing classes, and I will be doing kind of seminars, classes as well, whether it's individual one-on-one coaching or like group classes where I do presentations on specifically specific parts of astrology, specific areas of astrology. So just know that and be aware of that as well. That is something that I am working on in 2022 and doing more of. So we'll be talking more about specific things as it relates to astrology. So I am very excited about that as well. So I look forward to that with you. And that was pretty much all of my readings that I offer, at least at this point in time. So just know that there is a lot of things coming from me. You know, there's a lot of readings coming out the woodwork, a lot of things I'm going to be doing. So very, very, very excited for 2022 and all the things that we're moving towards, because I really only feel like astrology is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as we move into this sort of like Renaissance, honestly, age. So looking forward to hearing from you, booking with you. Once again, like I said, if you're interested in any of my readings down below, feel free. Message me, DM me on Instagram. I have my link tree in the bio, so you can go in there and look at everything that I do, and kind of just reach out to me if you are interested and if you feel that you want to learn from me. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I love, 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 love you. And of course, as you know, subscribe, like, do the YouTube things, because like this is YouTube. You know, you knew I had to say that. Come on, like, what? It's not a YouTube video without saying that. So yeah. I love you guys. Once again, this is BRAMstrology, where you have now taken steps to becoming your rare, authentically mastered self using the language of the stars. So I love you guys so, so, so much. Have a great, blessed day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.